Hi, this is Ms. Leffler with lesson 47 for Algebra 1. Today we're going to talk about percents that are less than and greater than 100. So the first question I have is, please write this down. We have 20% of what number is 15? So we have some practice with taking words and translating these words into algebraic expressions or algebraic equations. So this is no different. So I'm going to write this with numbers. 20%, I'm actually going to write that as 20 over 100. The reason I do that is because the word percent actually means over 100. So I'm going to put 20% is 20 over 100. The word of in mathematics is often used for multiplication. So I'm going to say of would be times. 20% of what number is 15? So what number? I will just represent that with the variable x. Some people do wn for what number, but I like x. And then is indicates I should write an equal sign, equals 15. All right, so now that I have that, all I need to do is solve for x. This is just a basic equation. In order to solve for x, when you have a fraction multiplied by x, all you have to do is multiply both sides by the reciprocal of that fraction. So if I multiply both sides times 100 over 20, it will cancel out on this left-hand side. Get my variable by itself. It'll cancel out here. So I'll just have x equals this, 15 times 100 over 20. Now we know how to cancel fractions when we multiply them, so I can put 15 over 1 and I can divide 15 is divisible by 5 is 3, 20 is divisible by 5, that would be 4. So I have 3 times 100 over 4. I can also cancel the 104 because 104 are both divisible by 2. So 100 would become 50 and 4 would become 2. So now I really have 3 times 50 over 2. 3 times 50 over 2, which would simplify to 3 times 50 would be 150 over 2. Now we can divide 150 by 2 to get the actual number. 150 divided by 2 is actually 75. So 75 is the number that we were looking for. So we're going to draw a diagram to illustrate this. So let's do an oval shape diagram, and we'll call this the before diagram, and then we'll have another oval over here, and I'll call it the after diagram. So in the before diagram, 20% of what number? So the of what number indicates the original number that I was talking about that was 100%. So that was 75. Of 75. So that's the original number. And then after you take 20% of it, you can divide that oval into two parts. One part would represent 20% and one part would represent 80%. So I'll just say this smaller part is the 20% and this larger part is the 80%. And through this problem, we've learned that 20% of 75 is 15. So 15 is 20%. If 15 is 20%, what is the remaining 80%? We would just subtract 15 from 75, and we would get 60 as our 80%. All right. So this was a percent that was less than 100, but now let's go to an example that's a percent greater than 100. So in this next little box here, we have this problem. So please write this down. If 20 is increased by 90%, if 20 is increased by 90%, what is the result? What is the result? So we have to be careful with this one. When we increase something by 90%, we're increasing it, so we're making it bigger. But 90% is a percentage that is less than 100. So some people might think you multiply it by 90 over 100, but that wouldn't work. And I'll show you why. So we're going to start with 20. We're going to translate this into a mathematical expression. So we'll start with 20. And it's increased by, so I'm going to be multiplying it by not 90%, but 190%. 190%, remember percent means over 100. So if I take 20 and multiply it by this, it's going to get bigger. If I did 20 times just 90% times 90 over 100, I'm multiplying 20 by a fraction that's less than 1, so my number would actually get smaller. So remember, when you're increasing something by 90%, you're making it 1.9 times bigger. So this would not work. We have to use 190. And so the result is what? I'll just say the result is x. And so that's all. We just have to solve this equation by evaluating it. We can evaluate by canceling some things right away. We can cancel 20 is divisible by 20, and 100 is divisible by 20. So we get 190 divided by 5. X equals 190 over 5. And since 190 is also divisible by 5, we can figure out what that is. 5 times 3 is 15, there's 4 left over, and then 5 times 8 is 40. And so our answer would this be 38 in this case. X equals 38. Now I want to look at my result and make sure it makes sense, because 20 was increased by 90%, so 38 is bigger than 20. If I come up with a number that's smaller than 20, I know I did something wrong. So let's do a diagram for this one as well. In this one, we're going to start with an oval, but then when we're finished, we're going to have something that's bigger than 100%. So I'm going to kind of do like a compound of two ovals together. It's not very pretty, but you get the idea. So the before and the after. So the before is going to be the 20. This was 100%. 20 is 100% of itself. But then after we've taken 20 and increased it by 90% or multiplied it by 190 over 100, we got a bigger number. We got 38, which is 190%. So let's have you do some examples on your own. So in the next little box here, first example, please copy this down. What percent of 140 is 98? So for this example, you should solve and also draw a diagram. And you can pause the video and get the answer in just a moment. So if you did this problem correctly, you would do what percent, which means what number over 100. So x over 100 of means times, so you multiply by 140, and then is an equal sign, and then 98. So I set my problem up like this, and now I can cancel, since I'm multiplying some fractions, I can cancel the 10 and the 140. They're both divisible by 10, so I have 14 and then I have 10. I can cancel again because 14 and 10 are both even, so I can divide them by 2. So I'd have 7 over 5 x equals 98. So now that I've simplified that, I can solve for x by multiplying both sides by the reciprocal, which is 5/7. I cross all that out, I get x equals, let's see, 98 times 5, which would be 490, and that's 7. 490 divided by 7 is actually 70. So what percent of 40 is 98? 70% of, 140 is 98. So 70% is my answer. And then for my diagram, all I have is, I start off with a bubble, which is before, and I'm going to say of 140 because that was my original number. So that's my 100%. And then my after diagram is going to be another bubble. And I divided it into 70% and 30%. So I'm going to make the bigger part 70%, and I'll make the smaller part 30%. And so I know that 42 is 30% and 98 is 70%. Where did I get the 42? I just subtracted 42 from 140 to get the remaining, or I subtracted 98 to get the remaining 42. So together, 98 plus 42 must equal this, and 70 plus 30 must equal 100%. All right, last example. You're going to try this one on your own too, and then check the answer. So please write this down. What number is 160% of 60? So solve the problem and then draw a diagram to illustrate the problem. Pause the video. To solve this problem, what number, I would translate that as an x because I don't know what it is, and is an equal sign, so x equals 160% of 60. So 160% can just be written as 160 over 100, and then of is times 60. Now I can go ahead and cancel some things right away. I can divide both 160 and 100 are both divisible by 10. I get 16 over 10. I can cancel again because 10 and 60 are both divisible by 10. So that would be 6 and that would be 1. And then I have simply 16 times 6, which is 96. So my what number here is 96. So for my diagram, I'll start with the before, my before picture, which is 100%, the original number, which is of 60. 60 was my original number, and then I take 160% of it, which means it's getting bigger. So now I have an extended bubble here. Not very pretty. And then we know that 96 is 160%. 96 is 160%. So that's the after picture.